In 1947, Kashmir stood between two newborn nations. As tribal forces invaded from the west, the Maharaja turned to India. In exchange for help, he signed the Instrument of Accession. Indian troops landed in Srinagar and the war had begun. By early October 1947, the hills of Poonch were on fire. The rebellion was no longer an uprising, it had become war. Clashes erupted near Thorar on the 3rd of October, and then everything accelerated. Deserters from the state army, Pakistani soldiers on leave, battle hardened ex servicemen, local volunteers. They joined forces, they fought together, and they quickly took control of most of Poonch. The garrison at Poonchtown came under siege. The state forces held on, but barely. In the Mirpur district, the pattern repeated. Rebels seized key border posts by the 8th of October. State forces withdrew from others without a fight. Pakistani army radios managed communication between rebel units. The Indian Navy intercepted the signals but couldn't decipher the locations. Kashmir was being engulfed, and Delhi couldn't see it clearly. Two wars were now unfolding, one on the ground and another in diplomacy. With revolutions sweeping through Poonch and Mirpur and tribal fighters from Pakistan flooding into the valley, Maharaja Hari Singh was out of time. He reached out to India, begging for military help. Mountbatten urged Hari Singh to formally accede to India. Only then could troops be sent. He suggested it be temporary, but Nehru and Sardar Patel weren't interested in temporary. They were interested in Kashmir. On paper, the deed was done. Kashmir had legally joined India, and Indian troops flew in. The Indian army landed in Srinagar and pushed back the invaders, but they weren't alone. Volunteers from Sheikh Abdullah's National Conference joined the fight, organizing, supplying, resisting. Pakistan was enraged. Jinnah called it fraud, a forced accession under pressure. He ordered his army chief, General Douglas Gracie, to send in troops, but there was a problem. The Indian and Pakistani forces were still under joint British command. Field Marshal Auchinleck overruled Jinnah's order. British officers would not fight in a war between two dominions. But that didn't stop Pakistan. Arms and ammunition were quietly sent to the rebel forces, now calling themselves the Azad Army. Retired officers, former Indian National Army fighters, commanders on leave, all now part of the fight to liberate Kashmir. In May 1948, Pakistan formally joined the conflict. Its official reason? To protect its borders. Its actual mission? Cut Indian supply lines and march toward Jammu. In the high mountains of Gilgit, the game took another turn. Major William Brown, commanding the Gilgit Scouts, turned against the Maharaja. On 1st November, he overthrew the state-appointed governor and declared accession to Pakistan. He claimed it was the will of the people. Support also came from the princely state of Chitral. Its scouts and state bodyguards, already allied with Pakistan, joined the invasion in the north. India claimed the people had spoken through the National Conference. Many Kashmiris admired Sheikh Abdullah, but many also admired Jinnah, and in that divide, the fate of a region was sealed. The war over Kashmir was no longer about lines on a map. It was about identity, loyalty, betrayal, and belief. The first Kashmir war had begun in shadows, but it would end in blood, and its legacy still haunts South Asia today. 3rd October 1947, a quiet mountain pass near Thorar erupts in gunfire. It is the first clash of what will soon become a full-scale invasion. On 22nd October, 10,000 Pashtun raiders, many of them active Pakistani soldiers in tribal dress, stormed Muzaffarabad and Domail. Parts of the state army mutiny and join them. The road to Srinagar lies open. But instead of striking fast, the raiders pause and plunder. Villages burn, shops are ransacked, civilians flee. Every wasted hour will cost them dearly. At dawn on 27th October, silver Dakotas flies through the Himalayan air. Lieutenant Colonel Dewan Ranjit Rai and the first Indian troops touch down on Srinagar's still civilian runway. They throw a defensive ring around the capital. That night at Badgam, a single company holds Srinagar airfield against overwhelming odds, buying India one critical night. 2 days later at Shalateng, Indian armored cars swing wide, smash into the raiders' flank, and rout them. The pursuit rolls on to Baramulla and Uri. Both towns are retaken. But 160 kilometers southwest, the story is grim. In the Poonch Valley, state garrisons are still besieged. Across the Jhelum in Mirpur, rebel columns overrun Saligram and Ovan Patan. Sahensa and Throji fall without resistance. 25th November 1947, Mirpur, the town falls. Reports speak of mass abductions. Women, desperate to escape capture, leap into wells. Hundreds die. The war has a new face: terror. Indian commanders halt their chase at Uri and redirect a relief force south. It reaches Poonch, but the news is too tight to break. A second column evacuates Kotli, then must abandon it for lack of men. In the plains, raiders seize Jhangar and lunge at Naushera, but the defense holds. Farther north, they hammer Uri again and again. In the south, India's 50 Para Brigade snatches Chamb, nudging the line forward. With fresh brigades arriving, India strikes back. Jhangar is retaken, then Rajouri. In the north, the Gilgit Scouts, now flying Pakistan's flag, lay siege to Skardu and push across icy passes toward Leh, seizing Kargil and cutting a relief column in the heights. By early 1948, the front crystallizes. Indian troops cling to the Kashmir Valley, Srinagar airfield secure. Poonch is a battered, half-liberated fortress. Gilgit and the high Himalayas hang in the balance, as thin mountain tracks decide the fate of entire districts. April 1948. While blossoms return to the valley, so do the guns. Indian forces punch northwest, retaking Teethwal on the Kishanganga River. Yet every yard gained in the valley is matched by bitter losses on the glacial ridges above. The First Kashmir War has entered its cruel middle act. Stalemate in the plains, lightning thrusts in the mountains, and civilians trapped between advancing lines. The next moves on political tables in Delhi, Karachi, and the United Nations will decide how this bloody debut chapter finally ends. 1948, as the Himalayan winter gripped Kashmir, the war entered a brutal deadlock. But India wasn't finished. Two bold operations would turn the tide, one in the icy passes of Ladakh, the other in the besieged hills of Poonch. In the north, Operation Erase pushed Indian lines toward Keren and Guraise, retaking lost territory and blunting a major counterattack at Teethwal. But in the far-flung fortress of Skardu, it was a darker story. For 6 long months, Colonel Sherjung Thapa and just 250 men held out, starved, shelled, and surrounded. Wave after wave of attacks came, and every time they held. Until 14th August 1948, with no supplies, no reinforcements, and no hope left, Thapa was forced to surrender. In the frozen heights of Zojila, Indian planners prepared a move thought impossible, Operation Bison. Armor at 11,500 feet. M5 Stuart tanks were dismantled, hauled by trucks, dragged across ice. Two regiments of artillery were hauled up by mule tracks converted to jeep roads by Madras sappers. The assault began on 1st November. Pakistani forces, caught off guard, fell back to Matian, then Dras. By 24th November, Indian forces from Leh and Zojila linked up at Kargil. For over a year, Poonch was a fortress under siege. Then came Operation Easy. After months of skirmishes, supply drops, and desperate resistance, Indian forces finally punched through. The siege was lifted. Poonch stood free. The Gilgit Scouts, who once threatened to take Leh, were now retreating. The Indians chased them as far as Kargil, but then they stopped. Not because they couldn't go farther, but because the war was ending. After over a year of war, in December 1948, the United Nations stepped in. A ceasefire was negotiated. The guns would fall silent at midnight on 1st January 1949. The ceasefire terms were clear. Pakistan must withdraw its forces, tribal and regular. India would hold Kashmir with minimal troops to maintain order. A plebiscite would follow, but that plebiscite never came. The war cost India over 1,100 dead. Pakistan lost over 6,000. Tens of thousands were displaced. Thousands more never came home. Kashmir was now divided. India held 2/3, the valley, Jammu and Ladakh. Pakistan held 1/3, now known as Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. But this was no resolution, it was a pause. The first Kashmir war ended with a line, not peace. That line, born in 1948, still divides families, dreams, and nations. And the promise of a plebiscite still hangs in the mountain air.